Great. So our format today is pretty straightforward. I want to, first of all, I want to thank all of you for joining. I want to thank our panel for being here. Thanks so much, guys. I've said in the past when I've done events with this quartet that they have been, they've been part of the reason why I like doing things with this group is because both friendly and straight shooters. That's a good combination in an admissions officer. I think if anyone was logged on earlier, you could see. I think the aura of, I think this is maybe misplaced at this point. I think people now generally know that admissions has changed a lot over the years. But I think there's a belief out there still that this is a group of people who are seeking to find small reasons to throw you out of the pool, as opposed to people who are basically trying to get to know you and learn more about you and see if you fit in with their class. And so, these are 4 individuals that I really feel are part of that group that are just, warm, engaging, straight shooting individuals who are eager to get to know you. So our panelist list, our guest list today, we have Bruce Delmonico, Assistant Dean of Admissions at Yale. Meta Carlson, we wave as we go. Meta Carlson, Assistant Dean of Admissions at Columbia. Donna Levinson, Assistant Dean of Admissions at MIT. And Kate Smith, Assistant Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at Kellogg. I am your moderator, Jeremy Shinewald, founder and president of mbaMission. I don't think you came to talk to me, so I'm going to defer to others. And we're not going to open up to questions right off the bat, so don't write your questions in for now. You can always get them ready to press send later on, but I do have a few questions that I want to start off with. I think the most important thing is that, look, the reason why we're here is because times are changing, and or at least a lot of our lives have changed a lot in the last little while, and maybe I'll quickly digress and say that I hope everyone is healthy and happy and distant out there. That's obviously, the most important thing in our lives these days. So, wishing everyone a lot of health and happiness, and happy that people are still looking towards short and long-term goals as well, even during tough times. And that's kind of what this is about. So, I guess let's start, because we're talking about the changes. To start, let's start with just how this, the pandemic has changed how your school has responded to the crisis from an admissions perspective, and most schools are increasing their flexibility. How you've enhanced your flexibility, and I can see everyone in. I think I'm going to start just in alphabetical order from ABC. So let's start with Amanda, and then we'll move on to Kate, Donna, and Bruce.
Okay. Obviously echo that, Jeremy. I hope everyone is well. Glad people are actually having the opportunity to join us, and thank you for hosting us and hosting Carter earlier too. I appreciate that. So how have we changed? Obviously, we're working remotely. This is not my office. Our whole team is working remotely, as I think most people are these days. I think one of the things that we jumped to very quickly in learning, obviously, that the GMATs and the GREs, executive assessments, weren't necessarily being offered as widely around the world as usual. We decided to extend our deadline. Obviously, there's a lot that's changing at this point. There are a lot of moving parts for a lot of people. We chose to extend the deadline both for us, obviously at Columbia, and for applicants. Why did we do it for ourselves? I can obviously be very direct about that. As you said, we're straight shooters. One, we don't know what is going to be happening with our international students in terms of the visas that they're going to be able to get or not be able to get. And so we wanted to be able to extend that deadline to, one, allow people to apply a little bit later in case plans had also student visas, in case plans had also changed for some people in terms of employment or deciding whether or not they actually wanted to go to school at this time. And so, we thought that, one, again, for us, we wanted to be able to make sure that we had as much of a pipeline as possible to bring in a full, robust, good quality class that I know that we will. So that's one for us. And again, two, for the candidates, having that opportunity now to be able to take the GRE or the GMAT or the executive assessment online at home, that is an opportunity now. So that gives people a little bit more time to brush up and study if that's something that they want to do. And also, again, for candidates, if plans perhaps have changed in ways that you wouldn't have necessarily foreseen even a month or two ago, we wanted to make sure that that was an extended kind of a deadline. So in addition, something that we're doing is actually having people, candidates can submit their applications without a standardized test at this point. We will review the application, including move through to an interview stage without the benefit of having that standardized test. However, we will not render a final decision until a standardized test comes in, and that includes, we will not be offering conditional admits, conditional upon getting an X score on a particular standardized test. We're just going to wait for that final test score to come in before we will give a final decision. At school, I'll try to be quick. You know, we're doing so much. The students have been so resilient, and so the faculty and the whole school, I'm so proud of kind of how everyone is continuing to move forward and be positive. There are a lot of different community activities that are still happening online, which I'm amazed by. And we're actually showing a lot of different webinars, one for prospective students, but two, also kind of showing some of the things that the students are getting. So for example, the CEO of Citigroup is going to be doing a webinar for our students next week, where he's going to be talking about kind of the impact of the pandemic on financial services and kind of giving some career advice at this point. So, you know, there's just a lot that continues to happen, and our dean is amazing in the sense that he continues to hold town halls for our students, either on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So there's a lot that's coming out in terms of communication so that the students know kind of what we know as quickly as possible.
Okay, I'm going to, I'll let Kate jump in next, if that's okay.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for hosting us. I certainly want to echo, first and foremost, I hope all of you and your friends and families and your extended networks are safe and healthy. I can share that, you know, we've been personally affected. I've been personally affected by having family members and team members on our admissions team who have had the virus. And it's something where, you know, we're thrilled that they're all making great recoveries, working through all that. But we certainly have empathy to everyone all over the world, wherever you may be, and however this may be affecting you. And so I think today's webinar is really appropriate, that, you know, what and how do we all pivot to this new reality? So all of us working remotely from home, you know, the same for all of you, and the uncertainty of the market and the economies around the world and the future of pursuing your MBA. The one thing that I feel really good and optimistic about is that the opportunities, especially hearing what's happened in the last month for our current students and how our team has adapted very quickly. You know, our belief is that there's going to be more and more of a need for talent out there in the world. And while there's certain industries that may be impacted in the near term, you know, one of the things our career services team has done was immediately mobilized and reached out regarding our current student situation, and has connected one-on-one with each and every student on their current circumstances, and is going to be supporting them fully through this transition, including reaching out to alumni. And in over 1 week, we had 100 new job postings sourced with this outreach from our Kellogg network. So I think, you know, our belief is that while this is going to disrupt and impact different industries and different people in different ways, the opportunity to pursue an MBA is still a very viable route for all of you to consider. And while there's this uncertainty, there is a lifelong ROI on this investment, and the career and the network that comes in impacting your career is actually a really powerful ally for all of the schools that are here today. Everything I said just holds true for sure. So we're thinking of you, and thanks for having us. So what we've done at Kellogg to adapt as it pertains to admissions is a couple things. Up until today, we had similarly made a decision to accept round 3. We extended our deadlines for both our full-time programs and our evening, weekend, summer intakes. Our full-time deadline, we've extended to June 1st, and we're reviewing applications on a rolling basis. So whenever your application comes in, we'll be reviewing those as they come in and setting up interviews. At Kellogg, we seek to interview every candidate that we can. And so we'll be setting up your interviews and working through that decision process in real time and releasing decisions on a rolling basis. For our evening weekend program, we have extended our summer deadline to May 4th. So in both programs, we have extended our deadlines. And hopefully that helps the flexibility for those of you who basically in the last few weeks, if you were considering applying, or now if you're newly considering applying, this gives you this opportunity to pivot on a speed that's right for you. Up until today, we had decided, like Columbia, to accept applications without a test score. But what we have we've made a new decision that we are officially announcing tomorrow, and so I'm giving you the scoop right now, is that we are going to accept test waivers for anyone who cannot obtain a test right now. We've just decided that the circumstances of you not being able to get to test centers, the uncertainty to the speed of when virtual testing will become available, and the fact that virtual testing means you have to have all the resources for a virtual test in your home. You have to have an internet, you have to have a camera. There's just a lot of complexity right now, and we don't want the circumstance that's unfortunately impacted those of you who were at that pivot point, and now it's out of your control that you're unable to obtain the test score. So we've made that decision that we will be making our review process. You'll be able to request a test waiver and advise on those circumstances. We'll certainly continue to accept virtual tests and any test scores that you have, but we're giving you that flexibility to appeal for a waiver. So those are all, I think, important factors, and certainly with the timeline, with these extended deadlines, we're hoping that that flexibility for students that have been impacted or candidates that have been impacted gives you the opportunity to consider pursuing your goals, your dreams, and pursuing an MBA now if it's the right time for you, because our advice is always to apply when you're ready.
Well, that's, okay, that's breaking news. Thanks for sharing here, Kate. I'm sure that's a offering, so to speak, that many students will be excited about and will have to consider. You know, that flexibility is critical right now. People who just simply can't get it done. Donna, somewhere in Cambridge or Boston, my hometown, I'm in Vermont right now, but I'm also faking my background in Vermont right now. So I for the first time in the last month, I've been yearning to be back home. So, you know, there you are.
Today's not the day to do it, though. If you can see in my backyard there, it's pouring rain and it's windy and it's not the best, but thank you. So first, Jeremy, thank you so much for including me on the panel. To everybody out there, I too want to say hello. Hope you and your families and your friends are all doing okay during these crazy times. I decided to call them crazy times. A lot of people like to say unprecedented. I like crazy because I think it's kind of crazy. So let me start with admissions, because the reality is we sit exactly between Amanda and Kate. So what does that mean? It means our initial round 3 deadline was the 9th. We have extended it, though, till the 15th of June. We are also doing it on a rolling basis, so you won't have to wait that long. But we're in the middle. So that means that you can submit an application without a test score. We will assess you and evaluate you without a test score. However, we will offer you a conditional admit. And what that means is that you will be admitted to the program under the condition that you do in fact complete an online exam and achieve a certain minimum score yet to be determined. So you're getting 3 different flavors of the same thing. I think what's coming across loud and clear, though, across all of us, is all of our schools' desires, as one of the 2 before me said, to turn it into a complete win-win to help you all, those of you for whom situations may have changed dramatically. You were thinking of applying next year and now it makes more sense to apply now. We're giving you that opportunity. And in addition to our schools, just in the face of all of this uncertainty, not really sure what our yield is going to look like this year for a whole host of reasons, to continue to attract really qualified people and to be able to assess them in our programs. So that's what we're doing from an application standpoint on the MBA front. For anybody who's listening who may have a little bit more experience for our Sloan Fellows MBA program, 10 years of experience or more, we've also extended the deadline and are doing something very similar as well, where we would assess you without a score, but then ask you to complete one of our exams. And then finally, for our MBA early admissions, those of you who might still be undergrads and are looking to apply now for 2 to 5 years down the road, we've extended that deadline as well to the 15th of June. Oh, I lied, to the 2nd of June. I was looking at my virtual talking points, to the 2nd of June. And for those of you who are applying to the MBA early program, not only will we review you without a test score, but to the extent that you can't get 2 letters of recommendation, especially since we understand one of them we ask for is from faculty, and we know faculty are very focused on delivering content in a new and different way. And so if you're not able to deliver that, we're asking you to share references instead, somebody who we may be able to just call and ask, should we have any more questions. We are all also working from home. This is the start of week 5, which is crazy. Yes, I have not worn shoes in 5 weeks. Yes, my slippers are like, what are you doing still wearing me all day long? And my dogs. So I've seen these commercials and it's true. I have 2 dogs who are saying, why are people around all the time? I've lost all of my freedom. So this is week 5. Who knows for how much longer we're going to be doing this. But we will continue to do it for as long as it's in the best interest of the health of our entire community. We will continue to share news and information with all of our admits and prospects as we get that information. So I think that pretty much, oh, I know. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
One more thing that I heard earlier today that really, I think, illustrates something that Kate said earlier. So one of our marquee programs we have are our Action Learning Lab classes, where the majority of the work you're doing is actually working with a company. And in the spring, we have what we call USA Lab, which is, we work in cities and towns all over the United States. And what somebody said on a call today was that every single one of our USA Lab classes, the projects have all pivoted to now be focused on COVID-19 response. And I think that illustrates and speaks volumes to what Kate was saying in terms of now is the time for people to pursue an MBA. Is it going to be the exact same experience that perhaps your friends had 2 years ago or your siblings had? Maybe not. But do we need leaders? Do we need people to develop these skills and then to go out there and get the world back on track? Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, maybe it's not the same, but maybe it's even more meaningful. Bruce, certainly last but not least. Bruce, please go ahead. I yield the floor.
Sure. Thank you, Jeremy. And again, as with Donna, Kate, and Amanda, I want to thank you for having us tonight. We do this every year, and I always enjoy it. And it's always, I think, hopefully helpful and productive for those who are participating. It is, I will say, Donna, it is crazy and unprecedented. I hope everyone's doing well. We're doing our best to try and contribute to flattening the curve and helping get past the current situation as quickly as possible. But I know none of us are unaffected, whether ourselves, friends, family members, or coworkers. We know probably, unfortunately, many people who've been affected by this. So hopefully we'll be able to weather it as well as possible. On a personal note, I would commend Donna, Kate, and Amanda. I think you're winning social distancing much better than I am. You look like you're in lovely environments, and I look like I'm in an undisclosed bunker somewhere. So I think I need to work on that aspect of my current situation. But again, thank you. So I'll try and be quick. So in terms of admissions at Yale, we have our round 3 application deadline. The longstanding deadline is tomorrow, April 14th. And so we're holding that deadline. We did extend the date by which you would need to submit test scores by 10 days, so to the 24th, for the standard round 3 application timeframe. We announced this a while ago when things were still unfolding. As it became clear that the situation was more disruptive than we thought, we have added what we call round 3 extended, but it's essentially a round 4. So in addition to our April 14th deadline of tomorrow, we have a May 27th deadline that you can also apply by if you're not able to submit and get all your materials in by tomorrow, then by the 10-day extended test submission deadline. So there are 2 options, the round 3 and then the round 3 extended for us. We recognize that for those of you, the test score piece is a big part of it, but also for people who are in the workforce and the disruptions that's causing as we're experiencing ourselves. For those of you who are still in school, having to sort of go home and finish classes online, there's so many disruptions that go beyond just being able to take a standardized test. So we definitely added that additional deadline to recognize those difficulties and to give people as much time as possible within our application review timeframe to be able to submit an application. I would say that especially we have our Silver Scholars Program, which is for students to go directly from undergraduate, from their college experience to us at Yale, and especially for college seniors who are, have had to move home most likely, finish their semester online. There's so many disruptions and it's so disorienting that we wanted to make sure we had that May 27th deadline to be able to complete the application and submit as give as much a chance to do that as possible. And I would point out the Silver Scholars Program, for those of you who are thinking about what happens next, meaning right now, that is a program where it's not deferred admission. It's not as though you have to wait 2 years. When you graduate this spring, you can start with us in the fall. What that looks like, I think we're going to talk about in this session, but I think that's a nice bridge opportunity to go directly from your undergraduate to the MBA. And I echo what everyone else has said about the enduring and ongoing value of the MBA, the really, frankly, increasingly urgent need for principled and thoughtful leadership at all levels to help us through these most immediate challenges, but also sort of thinking more broadly about how things need to be structured in the future to be able to avoid these kinds of, or more effectively respond to these kinds of situations and challenges that we all inevitably face in the future. So that's a little bit about admissions. I'm trying to think about anything else. We're not waiving the test, the GMAT or the GRE. We're trying to find a nice balance between providing flexibility and providing support for candidates to be able to apply in this application season, but also adhering to the standards we have and using the same data points we've been using throughout the process and being consistent with that. So we've tried to strike a balance by, obviously, as other schools, extending the deadline, not waiving. The one exception is for those of you who are out there who are Yale College seniors for our Silver Scholars Program. We have waived the testing requirement if you have a 3.7 GPA or above. It's something we've done in our asset management program. We're thinking about, and this is a little bit farther off, we're thinking about expanding that more broadly for having a GPA threshold that would allow you to waive the GMAT or the GRE more generally, but not there quite yet. Otherwise, in terms of how the school year is going now, the students, I think it's been amazing. They've approached the new normal with great good humor. Actually, the online classes have gone very, very smoothly. The whole school has pitched in. We've had, in addition to having student TAs, actually 60 or so staff members have volunteered to be course facilitators to help with the online sessions and to help with the technical components. And that's drawing from my team in admissions to student services to case writing to faculty support and elsewhere, communications and elsewhere, just to pitch in and do what they can to help make sure that courses go smoothly. And again, as Kate and Dawn have noted, our career development office is trying to reach out to the Yale community. Just an email went out just today to all Yale SOM alumni, asking if they have opportunities for students. So definitely that network is in full steam. So that's a little bit on the students side as well. I'll end it there just because I know we have a lot to get through in a shorter amount of time. So, but that's a little bit about what's going on at Yale.
Okay. One thing I realized also from Donna saying to me that talking about how it's been raining all day. I hold the key to this room, and if my internet goes kaput, the rest of you do too, and it's been pouring here as well. So if that happens, please wait 2 minutes and log back in. I hope there's some ability, because you guys are all panelists, that you guys can control the room, but for some reason if that happens, probably a good idea just to say it up front. Okay, I guess I also wanted to jump off from somewhere where Donna was talking about waiving the GMAT. When you're saying a score that will be determined later, is that case by case, Donna? Is that you guys going to determine some threshold? Let you jump in. You already know where I'm going.
Yeah, no, we will determine it. We just aren't there yet. You know, in the next few days, we'll figure out what that is, what the reasonable number is. Yeah, and it'll most likely not just be an overall, but it'll actually have a quant and a verbal.
Okay.
As well.
And,
We're just taking it day by day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Amanda, I've got to apologize. I was busy trying to kick someone out of the room who kept joining our panel, who is in fact a Manhattan Prep GMAT instructor who I think just was in the wrong room to teach a class. And I missed what you said. So I don't know what you said. I think Columbia's waiving the GMAT. Are you Donna said she's in between. So if you could remind me, and if you have anything to add on that front in terms of target scores or anything like that, please chime in.
Yeah, no, because what we're going to do is we're actually going to wait on rendering a final decision until we get a score. So we're not offering conditionals.
Okay. There we go. Now I understand what it meant to be in the middle. Got it. Okay. Okay, thanks. So, I mean, just quickly, are you guys all determined to enroll a full class next year? Is there any world in which you enroll less than a full class?
I can start with our plan is to enroll a full class if we're able. We're optimistic and hopeful that we'll be able to do that. By virtue of giving choice, we understand and have complete empathy to all of our international students and admitted students from all over the world who are struggling with obtaining a visa right now. And so, you know, we are intending to start and convene our classes in the fall in person if all the conditions allow us to do that. And if a student, an applicant or an admitted student cannot obtain their visa, we'll work with that student to enable them a virtual enrollment option. As Bruce just referenced, we've had a lot of success pivoting the last couple of weeks to online. Really pleased that the feedback from our students has been they've been surprisingly happy with the experience in the first couple of weeks. I think there was a lot of angst over what will that be like, but and we're obviously on a learning curve with all the technology, but we've paired you know, a tech support person with each and every professor to enable them to manage the class situation so the professor can fully be focused on teaching the course and engaging with the students, and someone else is administering all of the chats and the connectivity and the breakout rooms. And so they've been able to construct and build what I think has been a very positive virtual experience. So our plan is that an international student can say they want to enroll and matriculate virtually, and then hopefully we'll work with them to get here to Evanston when they can get here. And they'll be everybody will have to make individual choices on that path. But our plan is to matriculate a full cohort, if at all possible, full class.
Okay. Anyone have anything else to add? What about, is there a chance that maybe if you have to defer a large number of people next year, that you would expand next year's class?
I don't see expanding next year's class. I think we were, you know, because we have the class size is determined based on space availability and by sort of cohort size, and so I don't think we're just going to, you know, just explode that. We would have to figure out, you know, how we would smooth that if that became an issue. We don't anticipate having sort of a huge wave of deferrals, but we'll see what that looks like. We are also planning on enrolling a full class this year. Again, as Kate says, you know, if circumstances allow, we're not going to change our quality standards just for the sake of filling a class. We will fill a class that is of the standard that we have had and expect. I think if comes to the point where for whatever reasons, visas or otherwise, we can't fill a full class, I think we'll accept a slightly smaller class that is of the same quality rather than having a full class at all expenses.
Yeah, and I anticipate most schools are doing this. I mean, we've been very direct and forthcoming that we're also going to be keeping a much larger wait list this year than we have in years past. I mean, so again, that's in some sense mitigating risk again, for our side. And then two, for candidates, we actually have waitlist managers, which also means that if for some reason someone is on a wait list, they're probably people we would like to eventually take. We can help to work with them on creating a reapplication for the following year in hopes, again, that it'll work out next year if we are able to have a full class and then have a lot of people still on a wait list who we would love to see as part of our community.
is there, like, considering the concern about, you know, some internationals making it to campus or not, what would you say to the international who's saying, like, is now a good time for me to be applying, or like, does it not make sense for me to apply, considering that admissions officers are already talking about deferring people to the following class? I don't know. Go ahead.
So I just, you know, it's different countries are going to have very different outcomes, I think, kind of depending on the quality, I guess, and the effectiveness of their national mitigation strategies, just like ours are. So, you know, I think it's really going to, I think it's going to depend. Look, if we see strongly qualified applicants who are international, who are applying right now that we want to take, we have every intention of admitting them. Again, trying to be optimistic in hopes that they're going to be able to make it. I just heard from someone at GMAC, and I think, I mean, maybe Kate and Donna and Bruce have heard the same thing, that some of the consulates in, I think it's Beijing, I think it was like November 29th was like the posted date when someone was going to be able to get a meeting for the visa, and then we just heard that it's been pushed up to sometime in July. So again, I feel like things are changing so rapidly that, you know, if, again, the point being, if an international student is applying at this point and it's somebody who's qualified, we would like to admit, we have every intention of admitting them. And we'll work with them if the visa doesn't ultimately end up working out.
Anyone? So I try to moderate panels where everyone doesn't have to chime in, but if anyone else wants to add anything to that, by all means. But would it be particularly meaningful if someone in their application said, you know, specifically committed and said, look, you know, like in their optional essay said, I understand that, you know, there's a risk of not starting on campus, you know, but I would be prepared to be a virtual learner for the first little while and before joining campus, just sort of showing commitment to some of the changes. Would that at all be helpful?
So I would say yes, but not necessarily just for the reason that you're stating. So I think for people to be successful in this world, and it was actually before March as well, the ability to be flexible, adaptable, these are really important qualities for people to be successful in the world today and in the business world. And I think a comment like what you're saying, I think illustrates that really well and highlights that. And I think it's something that we value in people, as opposed to thinking, oh, good, here's somebody who's going to fill a seat regardless. You know, it may end up having the same net effect, but I think it's slightly different. And I think what we're thinking is, you know, we are very closely monitoring the visa situation, and to the extent that there's critical mass who aren't able to physically get here on campus, we will in fact provide you know, online options for them for whatever that time period needs to be.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll pause. Maybe quick question about scholarship money still being available. Usually late in the game, it's tougher to get scholarship money. Are there any new pools that are opened up because of this, or has it just been, are you able to stretch your dollar, or you tell me?
I could start. I mean, we always, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kate.
No, go ahead, Bruce, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say very briefly, we always model to have scholarship funds remaining in round 3, so we're not changing that. So there will be scholarship funds available, and this, just given the fluidity, it might be that we're able to recapture some funds and redeploy them, and so we're always open to thinking about that.
Okay.
Bruce just said it great. Same for Kellogg.
Donna's giving a thumbs up. Okay, Amanda, another thumbs up. Okay, you guys are. I'm gonna start scanning the questions that that the audience has asked us, so you can feel free to type them in. Let me see if there's anything else on my list as well. I guess in the transition to rolling, I mean, how can you? I had an applicant ask the other day, you know, if he still needs to take his GRE, what's the urgency level on that? Like, should he be targeting a month? Should he be? I mean, I know some of you are now talking about, Kate's talking about waiving, but you know, assuming you want to apply with a score, so it's not applicable to everyone, I guess. Like, how much flexibility is there in this role? I know it's a very vague question, but applicants are kind of saying like, okay, well, schools are saying, hey, round 3 is open, so I want to make sure that I get my application in round 3. It's the perfect time for me. I'm excited about it. But how much flexibility do I have within that round to get my testing done? Sorry for, I'm the master of the long-winded question, the leading question. I don't know if anyone wants to take a stab at that one. Everyone's backing away from my question. Okay, I'll just. I don't know. I'm gonna ask Amanda because I know you're rolling a little bit more.
Yeah, we're rolling anyway. I'm wondering who else is going to fall in love with this rolling admissions process and move to rolling admissions instead of rounds, because I love it, as you know. No, I mean, it honestly, at this point, again, because this situation is just so fluid, basically, again, we're going to move through the whole review process, including that interview, without the score. And that means we will be in constant communication with applicants that we end up pushing through the process. And so we'll kind of basically deal with people on an individual case-by-case basis should we continue to be moving forward with, them. So I wouldn't rush it. I would take the test when you're ready and as best prepared as possible.
Okay, I'm going to go to some questions and then I'll come back to mine, but I'm going to go to some questions from the audience. And there's some ground rules for questions to the audience. They can't be so particular to you that it's basically a one-on-one advice. They've got to have some broad applicability. Donna says no trick questions. So no trick questions as defined by Donna as asking her to tell the future, which I think is fair. And if anyone else has any ground rules, you can throw them out. But there's some good ones here. And so I will peruse and try and read and speak at the same time, which is always a little tricky. Someone asked, actually, I think this might have appeared on my question list as well, but someone asked, what do you say if someone applies in round 3 this year and then is applying in September only a few months later as a reapplicant? Like, is that are you really expecting anything that different from them, so soon after? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in.
I can respond that we might not expect, material progress in their overall profile, but now they're asking to be considered in next year's class. So every year you're evaluating a pool of applicants in the same academic year. So if you were to receive not an admission in this round 3 time and then apply in the following cycle, your candidacy might be, in any given year, your candidacy could be even, and it really is dependent upon the quality of all the applications that all of us see. And so we always accept reapplicants and admit reapplicants year over year. Now, not typical to have a very condensed time period between, that is atypical. But certainly you could, we always ask reapplicants to provide an essay of what's new and what's changed in their candidacy. And, I'd imagine that you'll have some pretty unique experiences in the next 3 to 4 months. And so when, we're talking about a difference of several months, our first round deadlines are all in and around September timeframe. There's still, several months of experience you may gain, and you might be able to cite what, if anything's happened to you in that timeframe as well. So I think there are nuances going on this year that are anything but typical. Most everything is atypical, and we're all going to, adapt and flex with this. I saw a question on the thread that I'll just try to quickly tack on and answer, which is somebody asked about years of experience. This might be a time where our typical years of experience or different factors, we open the aperture and think differently about the classes we build, just because we're going to see what happens in this cycle. And in general, I know we all have a pretty wide distribution on the types of candidates that we accept. So if you're thinking you're applying a little bit early in your curve, at least at Kellogg, it never penalizes you to be a reapplicant in a later cycle if you weren't offered admission in the first cycle that you apply, in the first year. So I'd say if this is something you want, you go for it. We always believe that those who come back as reapplicants are showing their passion, their commitment to wanting to pursue this. And that also plays as a signal in your pursuit of an MBA at Kellogg.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add? I agree with everything Kate said. And at Yale, we do welcome reapplicants. We do typically over the summer. This summer will be a little crazy. We'll see. We typically will give feedback to candidates who are not successful, so that if they're thinking about reapplying, so that they can know what to focus on in strengthening their candidacy. I can't remember, Jeremy, if your question was specifically about being denied because of lack of work experience or something having to do with work experience, because people can be unsuccessful for a number of reasons, and so you could get feedback about test score or other things that you need to work on or quantitative preparation. And so there are other things that could cause one not to be successful one year, but then to be something that they can work on to be successful a subsequent year. If it does have to do with work experience, the quality or the length of the work experience. Obviously, this year is a little bit atypical, as Kate mentioned, because of these extended deadlines. One thing you might want to think about is not applying in round one, but applying in round two, where you've been able to accumulate a little bit more experience that you can signal, by the time I start in the program in the fall, I will have had another full years of experience in the direction that I'm currently going. So that could maybe help if it's about work experience, not applying in that earliest round, but giving it a few more months to accumulate a little bit more experience, excuse me. One other thing Kate noted, being more flexible about the duration of the experience or what pivot points people are coming from. One other thing I think we're likely to see in this upcoming cycle, and maybe even this current round three, are people with work gaps or unemployed, then furloughed, or some sort of type of professional disruption. This is something we saw, obviously, a little over a decade ago with the Great Recession. And as admissions offices, we have to be so empathetic and sensitive and understanding about what the circumstances are. And so we definitely do. At that time, we did adjust how we looked at work gaps because of sort of the macro situation and the macro level forces that were at play. Similarly, I think this coming round three and then going forward, we will be similarly sensitive to the forces that are at play here and what applications look like. And so I think we will adjust accordingly.
Yeah, so that that was a question I wanted to ask, which is, we're already hearing from some applicants who have been laid off or furloughed, and just wanted to exactly give everyone the opportunity to opine on that. I know Amanda had wanted to say something on that topic as well.
Yeah, I feel when I saw that this was something that is actually on people's minds, I wanted to share something personal because, I guess I can really relate to the concerns that you may be feeling right now. So in 2001, I was in my 20s, living in New York, had what I thought was the greatest job in the whole world. I loved it. What I didn't kind of realize big picture was actually the economy was starting to be in shambles at that point, and retail, financials, industrials, all of those, the market was tanking. And in August of 2001, I got laid off from my job. And if this has happened to anybody, it feels so personal. What's wrong with me? What did I do? And it's hard to have that kind of clarity that can really only come with the distance from something like this happening. I'd just actually been promoted in the previous April. So it was just 4 months earlier, I just got a promotion and then I got laid off. And so, you're thinking oh gosh, the world seems like it's really caving in on me. And then again, being in New York, this was August of 2001, September 11th happened. And at that time, the world was a really, really scary place, just like it is right now. And, it's so hard, again, to be able to kind of take that step back and realize that people understand this is, a circumstance that may have happened to you. It has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with your worth or your value or, what a high performer you may be or potential that you have. And, today what's going on, September 11th aside, today it's almost with everyone, we've talked about it already, having been impacted by COVID-19, everyone on this panel, it's almost oh, well, we don't even know if we're promised a tomorrow. But what I can tell you from my own experience is the sun is going to come up again. Hopefully we are going to come out on the other side of this even better, and there's going to be some kind of a silver lining. So whereas you may be in the same situation that I was almost 20 years ago, being I just lost the best job in the whole world. It's, woe is me, this is never going to get better. It is. So I had the good fortune, I was going part-time to grad school at the time. I foolishly, I mean, if September 11th happened again, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not getting a job at this point. I put my credit card down and put 7 classes on my credit card, which I would not advise people to do. And, you know, things turned around really slowly. And in January of 2002, I met through a classmate of mine, Linda Meehan, who was my predecessor's predecessor in this job. And she ended up creating a role for me in the admissions office. And again, fast forward 19 years, here I am sitting in her role. And if you had told me that then, I would have been like, you're, you know, out of your mind. But, you know, why am I sharing this with you? It's because if, you know, if there's anyone who's concerned that there's going to be bias or no one's going to understand what's going on for you or what being furloughed is, or that you've been laid off from your job, you know, I know that it feels so hard and personal at this point, and it's really scary, but you also don't know what good things are going to come around the corner. So I really did want to kind of share that with you and impress upon you that things will lift up, I hope. You know, be forward looking and be as positive as possible and hopeful, and know that there's going to be a silver lining at some point. So I wanted to be sure to share that, because again, I know this can be really scary, but good things will come.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want to sound insensitive or flippant about this, but I remember many years ago saying, you know, and during the financial crisis, saying to people, you know, sort of, you know, the admissions officers understand that the global financial collapse was not the makings of an analyst at Goldman, you know, and so it's the same thing with this, where, you know, it's like, clearly, you know, we all understand that if your company is going you know, is amid hard times, as virtually every company in the world is right now, you know, that and they've chosen to furlough people or lay people off, that it certainly is not the fault of an assistant brand manager at, you know, I don't know, travel bag company or something like that, which no one's traveling or whatever it might be. I don't know how I picked that example, but you know, it's not. It's certainly not your fault, and people understand that the circumstances are truly global. Anything anyone else would like to offer? As I scan for questions here, I can't believe the number of Canadians who are on this list. I'm Canadian. A bunch of people asking if I mean, I don't know if you guys have gotten into the details, but asking if Canadians, because typically have a little easier time with the border, have any, you know, if you're anticipating they'll have an easier time. I'm not sure you guys are immigration lawyers at this point, but we've been seeing a lot of those questions. So, okay, still a lot of questions about what those GMAT scores would be. I mean, I'm assuming that the taken home test is, in your opinion, on the same level. Your score is your score, whether you have a taken home test or not. You feel the outcomes are similar? Anyone have any
Yep. Well, it's actually something that we've been discussing with GMAC, and they're assuring us that we should not consider them any differently. So.
Okay. Is anyone taking the executive assessment this round at all?
We are.
What's that?
We've been taking the executive assessment since last July.
Right, I actually knew that. I'm sorry.
Yep. And the EA is going to be coming. GMAC is going to be offering the EA online at home starting, I believe, at the end of April. I think that was the latest we heard.
Okay. So the question, I think, is, okay, I mean, it's do you believe that the executive assessment will hold any more or less weight for candidacies given current GMAT testing limitations? I don't,
No.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's tough to sort through and find broadly applicable good questions. There are a lot of questions about what next year's class would look like. That's in Donna's danger zone, right? No asking about if this will put pressure on next year's class. Okay. Okay, tons of questions, guys. This is a really active group. Let's see here. I don't have full-time work admissions. Okay, I think that's not broadly applicable. People thanking Thank you, Amanda, for her story and for sharing that. Amanda's always a good high EQ sharer. Okay. Okay, someone's saying, I'd like to hear your thoughts about Canada. Someone just asking in general about deferrals, like are deferrals being processed at this point already? If someone applies with the best intentions and then circumstances change, you know, how would you factor that in? You know, are we in the process of managing deferral requests right now, or are we taking a wait and see approach?
Wait and see. I mean, we're getting the requests already, but it's too early to tell at this point what's going to open and what's not going to open in terms of those consulates. The other thing is, I mean, there's a big difference between the people who, at the end of the day, cannot get here, and then the people who choose not to come. So I think those types of deferral requests will also be considered very differently, if that makes sense.
Same for Kellogg. Wait and see and manage each individual case and circumstance to understand where they're at.
Okay. How has your interview process changed moving towards online? Any logistical differences? Angelica, you get like a big, like double thumbs up for asking questions that are not about the GMAT scores, which I mean are okay, like it's great. But as I'm going through, I'm trying to sift through the non-GMAT scores and the non-deferral questions. So Angelica, thank you. That's a great question. How have your interview processes changed with everything moving online? Any differences?
So our interviews are normally conducted by alumni in someone's local area. Now they're being all conducted online by members of the admissions committee.
Okay.
Because Kellogg has always sought to interview literally as many candidates as we can match with the supply and demand, we're unique in that regard, I think. We have already had online experience with interviews when and if circumstances prevented someone from access to a local officer interview. Whether it was an alum, we use both alumni and admissions committee members for our interviews. So that will continue, except that they'll all be online until our shelter in place and the ability to be back together face-to-face is reopened up. So the questions, the process, the evaluation process is all the same. And we have felt very positive that when you have an online interview, it's amazing how reflective it is of in person. People really do come through as their true selves when you're having a conversation over half an hour in a virtual format. You'd be surprised. You really can connect and get to know people, I think, pretty effectively and have a really good conversation. So ours will be relatively unchanged.
Yeah, so this is Donna. So ours also, we actually interviewed, so we don't interview everybody. An interview is by invitation only in the next logical step in the process. We did the majority of our round 2 interviews via Skype and for several of our other programs. So we've currently done many Skype interviews. To be honest, my personal thought on this, and I've been thinking about it quite a bit, is that I think that from an assessment standpoint, I think a Skype or a Zoom or whatever interview is very little different. As Kate says, I think you're really able to get garner the evidence that you're looking for and the qualities that you're looking for. I think where we miss out, which is unfortunate, is from our standpoint on the sell side. So when we have the opportunity to invite people to campus, to interview with us in person, to be able to have lunch with current students or perhaps attend a class, now that's a great selling point for us, and that's a missed opportunity. I mean, even when we travel, I think our traveling around the globe and going to people, it's a sense of goodwill. There's a selling component to it. That's what's really missing. And I think we're all working really hard to figure out other ways to be able to virtually sell our programs, get you a real good assessment of what the experience might look like.
Okay, that's a great jumping off point, Donna. And Hillel, I promise I'll come back to your question afterwards. How can someone get to know your school? What are the various opportunities remotely to get to know your school at this point. We'll go in reverse order from Bruce up. I don't know if it's the same way, the same visualization that I do. We'll go Bruce, Donna, Kate, Amanda.
Sure. No, happy to start. I think that's a great question. Actually, I think one of the, say sort of benefits, there's no benefit to this situation, I think, really. But I think one aspect of this is that I think there's been a great democratization of the ability to connect with the schools because of the current circumstances. Nobody's traveling, nobody's coming to campus. We're not traveling, we're not going to cities. But as a result, we're creating a lot of opportunities online to connect with admission staff, with faculty, with students, with alumni, and really trying to think about, we've always had on webinars and other online activities, but we're really trying to both expand what we're currently doing, think other in terms of other ways we can share parts of the school with you. So in different formats, different vehicles, trying to be more interactive and trying to replicate the more personal aspects of the process as much as possible through an online format. So I think all of our schools, I'll let everyone else answer for themselves, but we are building out everything from sort of large faculty sort of master classes or kind of faculty presentations to small, intimate sort of one-on-one conversations, and trying to do as many of those from large to small and everything in between with different constituents, organized based on sometimes subject matter interest or other ways. So really trying to think about how to be as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. And I do think, as I said, one of the aspects of this situation that I think has hopefully been a little bit positive is that we're able to be more present to more people, and not just people who happen to be available to travel to a certain city or be where we are traveling. And so I think that's been hopefully a good thing.
Donna?
I would echo everything.
Sorry, guys. That is me. I apologize.
Not me.
Hazard was my fault. Sorry.
I would echo everything that Bruce said. And in fact, I would add that we have our virtual admit weekend coming up this weekend. And we are basically taking our admit weekend experience from the past on campus, and we are recreating it online. And so we are continuing to look for ways for people to engage with our community, whether it be faculty, staff, students, alums, in a variety of ways.
Kate, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can echo a little bit of the same of what Bruce and Donna just said. We've been pivoting quickly with our current students into virtual engagement formats that have allowed community building, which is something that's such a key part of the Kellogg experience, is our community. They've found different ways to connect with Zoom and different virtual formats, of course. So we obviously are also standing up lots of virtual connection points for prospects, and I think that will continue. We're also in progress working on developing a virtual campus tour. So we had not had that offering before, so our team is hard at work putting that together, just to try to create and replicate the experiences you might have had as best as we possibly can in a more virtual way for you to get to know the community. The other thing I recommend is just getting on the phone or on a Zoom call with current students or alumni, and we're happy to facilitate those connections. We have always done that anyway. As Donna said, like lunches with students when you come, well, you guys could have lunch or happy hour with a student on Zoom. So you can find those ways to connect and learn about the current students and alumni experiences in ways that hopefully help address the fact that you can't come to campus right at this moment.
Amanda?
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would add is one of the things that's really nice is in terms of online class visits that we're able to share via the web, there's obviously a lot fewer capacity issues. So that's nice. And we have our January intake. So that means the students will be in class over the summer. And so we'll have the opportunity to live stream a lot more classes over the summer when our January students are in their second semester.
Okay, Hillel, you're next, I promise. But John Pepleniak, I'm going to try to go with your screen name and pronounce it appropriately, says, just to recap quickly, if it can be confirmed, hopefully helpful for everyone, Columbia, Yale, so get ready to confirm or not confirm. Columbia, Yale will move forward with the interviewing without a score, but won't render a decision until submitted. Is that right or wrong? Right, Bruce, are we thumbs up?
No, sorry.
Okay.
I'm sure I was not clear. We are requiring the score. We have a 10 for a round 3 deadline, which is tomorrow. There's a 10-day window to submit the score. We gave a 10-day extension. So it's kind of partially right. But for the May 27th, we're not accepting without a score.
Okay. MIT will render a decision without a score, but would have to achieve a certain score before matriculation. Kellogg will proceed with interviewing and possibly render a decision to those granted a testing waiver. Okay. So Kate, with your application, would someone have to say explicitly, like, I don't have a test, I'm not planning on taking a test at this point?
Well, I think what we're saying is if you don't have a test score at this point, we understand that there's uncertainty right now about the timeline. And that's where I think I saw some of the question threads, is in this window where there's so many testing centers are closed, the online tests are still coming. And some of, our decision window right now is through June 1. And so would every candidate who wanted to apply in this timeline have all the resources needed? Because that's the piece that was sort of tripping us up a bit, is while the online solution, we will accept an online test score if you take one, absolutely not an issue. And if you think if you have access and you think that can help your candidacy, go for it. But if you don't have access, we didn't want this window of time to preclude someone from being considered. So that's why we made the decision to say you can appeal and say, I've not been able to take a test. I'd like my application to be considered without a test score. And that's the approach we're going to take in this window.
Okay. Hillel patiently asks, can candidates submit applications with a GMAT, but without recommendations? Is there any leeway being given on recommendations, considering possibly a recommender has been dislocated or something like that?
So not for us. We've now down to one letter of recommendation, and hopefully it's from your employer or somebody tied to your work situation. And so we would really like you to submit that.
Okay.
I hadn't really socialized this with my team yet. We accept 2 letters, and you can apply with one, if not both of your recommendations slightly trailing your submission date. We have always had a couple-day window. So if you are having an issue securing the second letter of recommendation, I would consider a conversation about the circumstances to open up. Again, it's the same spirit of us waiving the test score, is if you COVID implications are preventing you from putting together components, in this case, a recommendation from a recommender who's unavailable, but we would not do it without any recommendation. So we would certainly require at least one, and we would be open to understanding the circumstances on the second.
Okay.
And same, you just reach out to us and we'll talk to people on a case-by-case basis to make it work.
Okay, this is a very active group in terms of chatting and questions, which is great. I mean, that's what we want. If anyone's seen anything they want to, you want to play the moderator and want to jump in on any questions, or there's anything that hasn't been discussed that you think is important, I'm willing to throw the ball up there. I think I can also peruse my list here as well. Okay. I guess this is sort of in the same vein. I guess quite a lot of questions about testing. Like I don't know if this necessarily changed anyone's answers, but if someone has took a test, has it on record on their score report, and was dissatisfied with it, is that a problem with it because it's sort of their test of record per se, and they haven't been able to retake it again, so that in theory they might be better off without a test at a certain point. Maybe that's maybe it's a little more particular to Kate's situation. Like, could you, if you are saying, hey, it's not mandatory to have a test, could you choose not to report a test, or would you still have to report your test? And am I putting you on the spot?
At this point, At this point, I think anyone who submitted with a test prior, like that was provided when you had access to a test. So we'll consider, in all fairness and equity to all, this was one of the sticking points that we had, is if you didn't receive an admission to us in this academic cycle and you also want to appeal without a test score, we would allow you that opportunity. That said, Kellogg holistically reviews all our candidates about the 360 individual. And I can't even count or imagine a scenario where the test score alone is the pure determining factor. So it's one of many aspects that we consider, which is why we were open in this moment to consider a waiver, because we just think there are, you're going to have your GPA, you're going to have work experience, you're going to have different elements of your career that you're able to showcase in the interview. You can talk about if you think that there's a discrepancy between your GPA and what an attainable test score would be. There's many ways for you to advocate for your candidacy and to show the 360 person that you are. So our approach right now is to try to address what is the unfortunate circumstances that COVID is having on everyone, and to try to mitigate the fact that there are truly people who would have been considering pursuing their MBA at this point, and this test requirement would be a barrier to them proceeding in doing so.
So I think one or two of you said you would. I think MIT said this. I don't want to put new words in anyone's mouth, but will schools consider expired test scores lapsed over 5 years given the current extenuating circumstances? Am I wrong on that, Donna?
I did not say that.
Did not say that.
I did not. Did somebody else say it about us? They might have, but I did not say that.
Someone out there said they're accepting expired test scores.
That sounds like that might be a trick question. I don't know.
I did not say that.
I'm sorry. For the record, Donna did not say that. I thought we read it online with one of the schools. Regardless, is anyone prepared to accept an older test score at all as a proxy? Nope.
No. Given all the other ways that we've given, the leniency that we've given so far, that we'd rather one that's current and within the last 5 years.
Okay, this is getting.
I mean, for me, it's the same as accepting a waiver. So you can submit any evidence to your candidacy. You could submit if you've done online courses. So if you have an expired test score, you could submit it and tell us, like, this is all I have is this expired test score, and I'm in the, because presumably the reason it's expired is you were considering retaking it now, and now you're in a circumstance where you can't at this moment. So to me, anything that helps contribute to an understanding of your academic potential from the student side, we'll consider. And I mean, we're just trying to roll with what are the opportunities that candidates are facing. Who's that, Jeremy?
An interloper here. I got a second one coming. It's a family show. For those of you who were here before, that's what I wanted to say at the beginning, which is that if you're ever concerned about how, it's Margot's birthday today, she turned 4 today. If you're ever concerned about how, how the friendliness level of the admissions officers, then we had kids on the show before you got here, for those of you who were here early. So anyway.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We had kids and dogs, Jeremy. It's everybody's family.
Yeah. You guys want to maybe give me some space here? Okay. We gotta be a little quiet then. Okay. Okay. We're going to look for some good questions here, and I'm sure we'll get bored pretty soon here. Right. Okay. And we can't touch the mouse. Okay. So, okay. Any concerns? I mean, I think we've sort of addressed this, but maybe it's from a different angle. Any concerns about the validity of test scores at all? Of an online test score? Okay. Someone's saying, as a parent, I truly appreciate children's presence. I'm glad. There's not a lot I seem to be able to do about it right now. Okay. Let's see here. I think it's someone.
Jeremy, I see a rolling admissions question that's come up, and I think the advice that we give, the question is, are you at advantage going earlier or later in the rolling window? And I think you always have to balance when you think your application is sort of at its best point where you feel good about the submission you're going to do. So racing so much to the disadvantage of you putting together the strongest application you can is something for you individually to weigh. Typically, enrolling admissions, we're offering seats that are available in the class on a timeline basis. And there's always uncertainty, especially with this unprecedented extended window for the full-time programs, with the exception of Amanda, who's always done this. We can't predict what's coming when, whether we're going to have a handful or quite a few in a particular week. And so my advice to you is go when you're ready and when you feel good about it. But, there's always that, I think, the earlier you are able to achieve that, then you're getting consideration before you back up at sort of the end of the process. So it's not specific guidance, it's more like a personal thing, but something for you to weigh when you're ready versus when you can be considered by any of the schools who are going through this process.
Okay, this question's come up a few times. Given we're in extraordinary times, has there been any thought to looking back over applicants who were denied in the first, in earlier stages of this process and inviting them back into the process at all?
I'll just, oh, sorry, Bruce.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, we're really open to anything at this point and I don't mean that as like a desperate measure. I mean it as more of a, thinking out of the box, creative one. To be totally honest, things are different. So in a round one, we were assuming different things, primarily around yield, to be honest. And therefore we were highly, highly selective in round one. And we're at a point where there were many really qualified people who we did not invite for an interview because we had other people who were equally or more qualified. And now, given expectations around yield, we are in fact, looking at people who we may have overlooked before, who are really strong, and may, in fact, reconsider interviewing them. How was that? I'm stumbling on my words, so it didn't look too bad. But the answer is
fantastic.
Yes.
I was
The
almost.
answer is yes.
I was highly reluctant to ask that question. I've got to admit.
Yes. But it's true. I mean,
Sharon in particular.
we had outstanding candidates in round one for whom we just didn't have enough interview slots for. And so why not revisit them?
Wow. Breaking news again here, guys. We got Kate.
I don't know if that should be breaking news.
Anyone else taking the same approach?
So we haven't taken that approach. But we're, I know we're, it sounds like other schools have been. We're gonna look through, and we're looking forward to round 3 and seeing what that brings us. So we haven't taken that approach yet.
Okay. Kate or Amanda, any consideration of that one?
Well, I think I can touch on. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. Similar to what I had said before, is if you were in our round 1 or 2 application pool and you were denied admission at that point, by us saying we want to be fair and equitable to all, you could appeal, to say, would you reconsider my application? So similar to Donna, we're going to let the applicants tell us they're interested in that appeal. But certainly, the majority of the class is already in flight, so I wouldn't expect a material, massive shift in terms of all the different decisions that were rendered. But certainly the opportunity for anyone to signal and say, hey, I really am interested in Kellogg or MIT, and I want to be reconsidered. I think as time goes on, we're going to see what happens with this class. And that gives us, it's the same thing Donna said, we have had the exact same scenario. But I think the more likely is that those on our wait list, as Amanda referenced earlier, we've all kind of created a deeper wait list pool. Those are the ones that I think will have active consideration ongoing over the coming weeks and months.
Anything to add, Amanda? We'll leave you be on that one? Okay. Thank you for asking that question, Sharon. That was, like I said, I love admitting when I'm wrong about things. I love when my team challenges me on things. This was a question I was almost reluctant to ask, but it came up a few times, so I figured why not? And the answer surprised me. Okay. Let's see here. I think there's some questions asked in the Q&A panel that might need to be moved. Is there any, I mean, so I guess this is, how hard are these deadlines that have been shifted? Is there a world in which they shift again? Someone's asking. I guess my comment to that person would be, if you can see that you want to apply at this point, then don't wait for a deadline to shift.
Jeremy, I'll jump in. I see one about our summer evening weekend part-time program. The deadline for summer has been extended to May 4th. So similar to full-time, we extended the deadline. So I just wanted to hit that one quickly because it was easy.
I think I'm going to rephrase Selman's question here, which is, can you share any information at all? I mean, is the word getting out? Are you seeing more application starts late, at this point? I mean, I know you can't share specific numbers with us, but, he's asking, I think part of the reason why we're here today is to sort of say, hey, the word is we want to get the word out and get, make people aware of the fact that there are more, round 3 possibilities than there have ever been before. So, is that word getting out? Are there more people who are starting applications at this point?
Yeah, I can start. I can say, again, our first deadline is tomorrow. We're not seeing a dramatic uptick for that deadline, but we're seeing a lot of people who've started applications for the May 27th deadline. I don't know if other schools are seeing that as well, which suggests that there is both that there is interest and also that people do actually need the time that we're all giving them to be able to put their applications together, whether it's taking the test or working on their essays, getting recommendations. So I think that extra time will pay off. In terms of, we have a number of online events, and we've pretty consistently seen the attendance on those events being double what we were seeing last year. So there definitely is an uptick, I think, in interest, and hopefully, as I said, the extended deadlines will give people the opportunity to put together their best application, to present their best selves to us, because we are all, obviously, Jeremy, as you started this by saying, we're not looking to keep people out, we're looking to try and bring people in, and so hopefully we will. There's still a great opportunity to do that between now and the start of school this fall.
Okay.
And I'll chime in again. I see another specific to Kellogg question. Yes, we are still accepting applications for our 1Y and MMM programs. So regardless of where you are in the world, we will be admitting great students to these programs and hoping that you can get here, and working with each student on their individual circumstances is what we discussed earlier. So yes, anyone can still apply to any of our full-time programs right now.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who, I'm scrolling through, I smiled when I saw that there are many birthday wishes there for Margot, so I will pass them along. Big 4 today. I came right from cake cutting to this event. Someone corrected me in saying that UVA is the school that is being more flexible and looking at old test scores. My apologies to Donna. I knew someone had done it. And someone then asked me a question that I had intended to ask, and I quickly forgot the question as I was catching myself up, which is, I'm sorry to say, what was it here? It was at the end. So many questions about GMAT scores and test scores. Oh, that's what it was. It was, this is getting dangerously close to Donna's, do not cross this line. But, considering all the flexibility, I mean, would you anticipate that averages might decrease a little bit this year? Is it too hard to say at this point and crossing that line?
Did you say decrease?
Decrease with all the people sort of that maybe are, I don't know, looking at all alternatives and waivers, or just don't have the time to study, or applying later. We might think that this might be the year where averages go down a little bit.
I would anticipate, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think this will have any impact on deferred applicants who are doing things 2-3 years out for current seniors? I don't see why it would, because it's so far out for them. If anyone wants to jump on that one. Okay, I'm answering my own questions. Why? I'll have my own panel next time. You guys host, and I'll be the panel. Okay. Okay. Anyone have any new ground to cover here? I don't want to. I think we're coming close to our time here. So if anyone has any new angles, maybe outside of the. So Lucia asks, what's the best way to position being furloughed on an application? Any advice on how to productively spend downtime to improve your CV? I mean, this goes to something Amanda touched upon, but and everyone touched upon. But I mean, is it just something as simple as reason for leaving? Note that you were furloughed, or would you want to see anything in particular in the application?
I think being straightforward is just the best. I mean, the best path with that kind of an explanation. I mean, look,
we have an optional additional information essay, and that would be a great place if there's not enough room in the reason for leaving. And you can say reason for leaving, furloughed or laid off. You can say due to COVID downsizing or due to, like, you can acknowledge that. But if you want to give more color, you can also put that in the third essay, and you'll have the opportunity to explain your circumstances in our interview as well. So there's a lot of places where you can explain and articulate. And to be candid, I think most of us are looking for the potential, the person that you would be in joining our community at each of our schools. And that's not going to be a huge change if you were impacted in the last couple of months due to COVID implications versus your entire career, all that you've done. I think that you're going to be able to showcase what you would bring to the community that you would be looking at, which program you'd be looking at joining among the panel here, anyone that you're applying to. So I think the ability for us to understand all that you've done up to this point is going to be considered very actively, at least I can say for sure, by Kellogg. And we're looking for the future potential that you bring to our community and the impact that we think you'll be able to have here. So back to Amanda's personal story, like, there's some optimism and hope in all that's going on right now, and having that in how you're articulating, communicating to us the why you want to pursue the MBA to begin with is something that I think you can use to your advantage to say, like, this happened to me, but this is what I'm hoping to achieve. And I think all of it will hang together. So I wouldn't put undue stress on yourself regarding your current employment circumstances if you were impacted because of COVID realities.
Okay, you know what, we're almost at time, and I want to make sure, first of all, that we all, give our guests, an appropriate thank you for taking time from their schedules. I also, if anyone wants, a last word or something, some summary points, I certainly want to open the floor. I don't know, Bruce, do you want to start? Anything you feel like maybe hasn't been addressed? You just want to summarize where we stand at this point?
I'm happy to start. I don't have any, searing, not that I at any point in this panel had any searing insights, but I just want to take one last chance, Jeremy, to thank you for having us. And just reiterate that, things are obviously tough right now for lots of people. But I think Kate said this, and I think others, Donna and Amanda echo this as well. The short term is tough, but that doesn't negate the enduring value of an MBA. And we are doing what we can to be flexible to allow you to, if you're thinking about trying to, and especially if you had a disruption and are trying to change plans and looking to start a program in the fall, we want to work with you to help try to make that happen. And I think, as you've seen, Jeremy, as you've demonstrated, and as people have seen, we're humans. We're sensitive to what's going on. We're trying to be as flexible and understanding as possible. And so hopefully this panel gave a little bit of a sense of that.
I don't know if anyone, Don, do you want to jump in with some summary, final thoughts?
I think Bruce said it really well. I hope everybody is safe and healthy. As I said before, and I believe really from the bottom of my heart, there is probably no better time to pursue an MBA. It's never been more important for us to develop future leaders who are principled and innovative, and can think out of the box, because we, not just our country, but the world really needs you. So I look forward to receiving each and every one of your applications.
Kate? Kate, do you want to jump in? Oh, there you go.
Yes, sorry, my unmute wasn't unmuting for some reason. Both Bruce and Donna just said that very eloquently. I think we're all here today because we are constantly looking to put together exceptional classes that really fit with the values and the goals that each of our universities aspire to deliver in terms of world-class MBA education. That's what this panel offers. And I couldn't agree with Donna more that the world needs people who are going to help us lead and manage through this crisis. And you are going to be a generation who does that. I mean, you are at an intersection point where you are going to come out of, in the next year or two, if you pursue an MBA now, this is going to be a journey back to what the new normal and the new future is. It's going to be a time and place where organizations, this is not going to be a correction that's like a snap of the fingers, right? There's going to be, I think of like travel, hospitality, entertainment, retail. Many of these organizations are having to adapt everything right now in real time. Small businesses, startups, so many different industries, healthcare. I mean, let's start there. So, the opportunity to be a part of what the next chapter is, building off of, the way we just talked about the Great Depression and the recession and the impact, the two things you can point to are 08, 09 and 9/11 in terms of the last 20 years. And in both of those chapters, what has happened in the years after those major disruptions were pivotal. And those can be career opportunities for you to find an intersection with your passion, your personal passion, and what the world needs. And that's what we are all, I think, seeking to afford and creating opportunities for you to pursue with resources around you, a network, a community, career resources. We offer career resources and coaching for life throughout your entire career as an alum. All of that is what these programs that we're seeking to offer you. So I hope amidst what can feel like a tough time for us all right now, again, I come back to the hope and optimism of the future and how we're going to get back to that new place. So thank you for your time and for your engagement and your consideration.
And Kate, you're the one who's sitting here talking also like about the future and kind of the hope and optimism. I'll tell you kind of right here in the here and now, thinking about all the time that I've been spending the screen time watching Mr. Rogers with Carter that you've seen. You saw, some of you may have seen her before, but one of the things that we keep seeing over and over in the Mr. Rogers episodes is in these very, very scary times, look for the helpers. And you're talking about how this group, they're going to be the helpers in the future. And I think kind of in the here and now, the group that we have right here, if you are looking to get into an MBA program, you are thinking about it for this year or next year, we are the helpers at this point. So look for us to be able to help kind of guide and advise you along your way. And we will do our very best to help you achieve what it is that you want to. So again, just appreciate everybody's time, and we'll, hope for the best for everyone. So thanks.
Thank you, guys. I have nothing to add. I want to leave it on that positive and optimistic note. Thank you all for joining. Wish you all, I've been saying to people, I hope that you are distanced but not distant. And so I hope we all see you all, we see you all again. And that I wish much health and happiness to everyone who joined us today. Stay safe and best of luck, whether it's in the MBA application process, or of course, just in, it's just a piece of life. All of us are health and happiness all throughout life. So thank you so much. And with that, I guess we'll final thank you and we'll sign off.